Welcome to the dark side of stories, the ones you'll never forget. The Grand Astoria Hotel had been a grand dame once, its name whispered with reverence in the Gilded Age. Now its grandeur was a fading memory, whispered only by the wind that whistled through broken panes and rattled the leaded glass. I found it online, buried deep in a travel forum for unusual and isolated stays, and booked it for a song. I craved silence. A void vast enough to swallow the clamor of my own thoughts, to finish the damn novel that had become my torment. The advertisement promised absolute solitude. For once, internet hyperbole proved accurate. My old sedan crunched on the gravel of the desolate drive, kicking up dust that swirled like spirits around the overgrown hedges. The hotel itself loomed, a monstrous silhouette against a bruised autumnal sky. Layers of grime coated its once white facade, and missing tiles left gaps like decaying teeth. Heavy oak doors, studded with tarnished brass, stood slightly ajar, as if perpetually sighing. I pushed one open. The lobby was immense, a cavern of shadows and dust motes dancing in the meager light filtering through grimy skylights. Persian rugs, faded and threadbare, clung to the marble floor like ancient skins. A single dusty bell sat on the reception counter, beside a handwritten note. Key to room 407. Make yourself at home. No staff, no other cars in the crumbling parking lot. Just me. And the silence. It was glorious at first. My footsteps echoed, vast and solitary, as I ascended the grand staircase. The air grew colder with each landing. Room 407 was exactly as described. Large, opulent, but crumbling. A four-poster bed draped in faded velvet, heavy curtains that blocked out the entire world, and a faint, musty scent that I quickly grew accustomed to. I unpacked my meager belongings, set up my laptop on a rickety writing desk, and breathed. Finally. Peace. For the first few days, the silence was my companion. I explored. The ballroom, a cavernous space where ghosts of waltzing couples still seemed to shimmer in the dust. The dining hall, tables laid with spectral cutlery under yellowed cloths. The library, shelves groaning with leather-bound tomes, their pages brittle with memory. Each visit was a descent into a forgotten world, a mausoleum of opulence. I was the sole curator, the last living witness. The vastness was exhilarating, then comforting, then heavy. The silence began to acquire a texture, a weight. It pressed in, not empty, but full of something unsaid. The echoing of my own footsteps, once a novelty, became a hollow drumbeat against an unseen wall. I started to hear the old house groan, settle, breathe. Or so I told myself. It began subtly, a faint whisper, just at the edge of hearing, when I was sure I was alone in the library. A rustle of pages, like a sigh. I dismissed it as the wind, or the creaking of old timbers. My mind playing tricks. Solitude, after all, could be a strange companion. Then, one evening, I was on the second floor, exploring a wing I hadn't yet ventured into. A door, perhaps the 10th one down a long, dark corridor, was slightly ajar. I distinctly remembered it being closed when I'd passed it that morning. I paused, rationalized it as a trick of memory, and continued on. The next morning I returned to the library, eager to resume my writing. I'd left a particular rare edition, a book of local folklore, face down on a reading table, a crumpled receipt marking my place. When I returned, it was gone. In its place, another far older volume lay open, its yellowed pages filled with tight Gothic script I couldn't immediately decipher. The receipt was nowhere to be seen. A cold ripple traced its way down my spine. This wasn't the wind. This wasn't my imagination. I tried to explain it away. A squatter? But why move my book, only to replace it with another? Why the specific page? I walked the corridors more cautiously after that, my senses heightened. The hotel's silence, once comforting, now felt pregnant with anticipation. Every creak, every groan, was amplified. I started to hear sounds distinctly separate from the building's natural decay. A soft thump from an upper floor. A faint, almost musical tinkle, like a tiny music box, coming from somewhere above me. Then, the distinct, rhythmic tick-tock of a grandfather clock that I could have sworn was not present in the lobby. I started leaving small markers, items in specific places, doors ajar at precise angles. I even dusted a section of the grand staircase banister and left a faint fingerprint in the dust. Every time I returned, something was changed. The book would be moved, the door silently closed, the dust undisturbed, wiped clean in that section, only to reveal another freshly made fingerprint, faint but undeniable, beside where mine had been. Fear, cold and sharp, began to truly set in. I wasn't alone. Who or what else was here? Why had they left no other sign of their presence? No sounds of a car, no movements I could ever truly track. I locked my door at night, shoving a heavy armchair against it, but the feeling of being watched never left me. My sleep became fitful, punctuated by the imagined echoes of footsteps in the corridor, the faint, maddening tinkle of the music box. One night, the tinkle became louder, clearer, accompanied by a low, guttural humming. It was coming from the third floor. I knew this because I was standing at the foot of the staircase, my heart hammering against my ribs, unable to move. I was terrified, but something primal, a desperate need for answers, pulled me forward. I ascended a single step at a time, each footfall a thunderclap in the oppressive quiet. The hum grew, a tuneless, ancient melody. A faint, flickering light pulsed from under a door down a long, dark corridor on the third floor, a corridor I hadn't dared to explore before. It felt wrong, forbidden. My hand, slick with sweat, gripped the ornate banister. I crept forward, drawn by a morbid curiosity. The air in this wing was thicker, colder, tinged with a cloying sweetness that reminded me vaguely of lilies, and something else, something metallic and faintly decayed. The door was not just ajar. It was open a slender crack, revealing a sliver of the illuminated room beyond. I swallowed, my throat dry, and pressed my eye to the gap. The room was not like the others. It was lived in, intensely so. Dust still coated the heavy furniture, but it was displaced, pushed aside as if by constant use. An old faded floral wallpaper peeled from the walls, but not in neglect. It seemed to cling, trying to hold on. And there, in the center of the room, sat an old woman in a high-backed rocking chair. She was ancient, her skin like parchment, her hair a wispy halo of white. She wore a dress that looked as though it belonged to another century, tattered lace at the cuffs and collar. She rocked slowly, humming that low, tuneless melody, her head bowed. On a small, dusty side table beside her, not a music box, but a collection of old, yellowed photographs lay scattered, and amongst them, glinting dully in the dim light of a single flickering candle, was a tarnished, brass room key. Not mine. My breath hitched. The old woman stopped humming. Slowly, painstakingly, she raised her head. Her eyes, milky and cataract-clouded, seemed to look directly at me, through me, into me. A shiver, colder than any I'd felt in this desolate place, tore through me. Then, her lips, thin and dry, parted. Her voice was a dry rustle, like leaves skittering across forgotten pavement. "You're finally back, my dear." My blood ran cold. Back? I recoiled, my heart threatening to burst from my chest. My gaze darted around the room, desperate for context, for an explanation. It landed on a framed photograph on the mantelpiece above a cold hearth. A younger version of the old woman stood smiling, hand in hand with a man. And the man, he had my eyes, my jawline, my exact unsettling expression. It was me, or a terrifying echo. I stumbled back, tripping over my own feet, the sound of my fall echoing like a gunshot through the silent corridor. The old woman's head turned, following the sound, her smile widening, showing gums that were nearly toothless. She began to hum again, louder this time. I ran. I didn't stop for my laptop, my clothes, anything. Down the grand staircase, its marble steps a blur beneath my feet, through the vast, echoing lobby. The heavy oak doors seemed miles away, but I pushed through them, gasping for air, into the cold, sharp night. Once outside, I spun around. The Grand Astoria loomed, a monstrous, silent sentry. I looked up at the third floor. The flickering light in the old woman's room was out. But then, a single faint light blinked on in my room, on the fourth floor. I felt a chilling certainty deep in my bones. I wasn't free. As I looked down, my hand, trembling, reached into my pocket. My fingers closed around something cold, heavy, and metallic. It wasn't my key. It was the tarnished brass key from the old woman's table, still faintly clinging to the scent of lilies and decay. The Grand Astoria pulled at me, a silent, insistent tug. It wasn't just a hotel. It was a hungry, waiting entity. And I, Elias Thorne, was not just a guest. I was the next iteration. I was home. And I had never truly been alone at all. I was simply the one who had finally returned to fill the silence.